Welcome, everybody. This is Peretz B. Eichler on From Right to Left on the Front and Center Talk Network. Upcoming September 13th, there's an election, a primary for the Democratic seat of Assemblyman right here in the 45th District. We're going to be talking to somebody who is throwing his hat into the political arena. Why he would want to do that? Well, we're going to find out when we speak to Ben Akselrod, somebody who has been politically active for a long time, but now is taking that big, bold step with this upcoming Democratic primary. So let's find out why. Let's find out who he is, first of all, and why he would do such a, what some would call a wild and crazy thing, to throw their hat into a political ring, especially this arena where it's so heated and so many issues that are coming up. Let's find out right now. Ben, welcome. Thanks very much for joining us right here on From Right to Left.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Now, let's get a little bit about your background. I think people would like to know who you are, where you come from, and certainly where you intend to go. Where were you born? Not in the United States.
No, I just said thank you, and you already can tell that. I was born in the former Soviet Union, and at the age of 17 or 18 years old, I came to the United States with my parents, my brother, and I came to, eventually I ended up, a couple months later, I ended up in New York, in Yeshiva Chaim, Berlin, and it's all started here. I always had my political bug, even as a kid in Russia, growing up Jewish kid in Russia. But here it's actually, I think, is possible, and I think I'll be successful come September 13 with the help of many people that are listening to us right now. Thursday, September 13, I hope they will vote for me for State Assembly.
Well, let's find out why they should vote you. But let's find out first from you, why would you decide to run at this point? I would tend to think, and I'm projecting my own thoughts about people I know who have come from Russia, former Soviet Union here, there generally seems to be a sense of an appreciation of what America does in terms of the freedoms which it offers and things like that. And one might think that might give you a liberal bent, but you seem to be coming at it from a little bit different point of view. In other words, what you see, what you've seen growing up in America, did that contribute to any degree to your political stance and why you decided you wanted to take a run at political office?
Absolutely. I think that every person's life experience contributes to their views, political views and otherwise. I think what influenced me the most, simply my family. My children, my wife, my parents, my in-laws, my brother. I'm really worried. I'm really worried about my children. They're growing up in a society today that, in my opinion, is way too promiscuous. And I would like to do my part to help them to grow up real, honest, true people.
Well, let's take certain issues, for example. Let's say in New York State now the same-gender marriage law has been passed. So that's kind of like a fait accompli. Do you think there's anything that you would do if you were elected to the State Assembly that might somehow be able to reverse that or change the trend? I mean, what actually do you think you'd be able to accomplish, let's say, along those lines and other lines as well? Let's go issue by issue. I'd like to start with that, same-gender marriage. I mean, is there a chance that that would be overturned? Do you feel it should be overturned? Could it be overturned? What can somebody in the State Assembly do about that? Then let's move on to other things which would affect, as you put it, children, which is tuition, which is a very important issue. But let's start with this.
I wanted to point out that we didn't come to this point overnight when gay marriage is an acceptable thing in the state of New York or anywhere in this country. Unfortunately, for many years, many different organizations, lobbying groups, try to push their agenda, in this particular case related to gay marriage or gay rights, on us, on residents of New York State and residents of Brooklyn, New York. And it's really something that, as I said, it didn't happen overnight. So the process to overturn, number one, yes, I would do everything possible to try to overturn this in my opinion, wrong law. Why do I feel so strongly about it? Because the same people who pushed this law upon us, they did not stop there. Today we're starting to talk about transgender. Today we started to talk about all kinds of things that just 10, 20 years ago we would never think of.
It's called defining down. We've all come to see that they've taken terms which formerly were totally intolerable, unacceptable, now become part and parcel of society, the rubric of society, so that it's become a part of the vocabulary that's accepted, such as the agenda which they put forth in classrooms and things like that. Would you have anything to say about that, even though the bill has been passed? Would taking a position on the curriculum which is being now put forth in school systems have anything to do with what you would be advocating against?
As I already said, I came from Soviet Union, and I think that many people who came across people from Soviet Union who went to school, one thing that Soviet Union was known for was very good education.
Or some people call it brainwashing.
We're not talking about history of Communist Party. We're talking about math and languages and science. Today, when in New York State we spent over $18,000 per child in public school, and which comes in to be number 3 in the entire nation, we're the 3rd state in terms of per capita spending on each child education. And we come number, depends what year you look at, between number 35 and 37 in terms of results, our passing grades. Something is wrong.
I mean, there's something disproportionate between the amount of money that's being spent and the results that are achieved vis-a-vis that money.
Absolutely. I think that a significant part of it is the fact that the curriculum that is today being developed has to do more with social engineering than with simple math, history, English, science, subjects that are important for our children to know when they grow up.
Of course. Now, that also takes us into the realm of the concept of tuition tax credits, the Butler law, and things like that, for which many in this community, and particularly in the 45th District, would be affected by. Can you tell us something about where that stands now and what you might do to implement something that might ease the tuition crisis that many people are undergoing?
Look, I have 5 children of my own. 4 of them were in school last year, and the 5th one is going this year as well. I know what tuition costs in yeshiva. They all go to yeshivas. I know it puts tremendous strength on any family, no matter how rich or poor you are, no matter how great your breaks, the tuition that yeshiva or Beis Yaakov or any other school gives you.
Not only the Jewish schools as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The same goes on in other religious schools and private schools. But what I'm saying is that, to my knowledge, an average price in yeshiva, in a regular yeshiva, significantly less than $18,000. If people would have a choice, have this $18,000, and have a choice of sending their children to public school, to yeshiva, to a private school, with the help of this money that an average child gets per capita in the budget.
I mean, even if it were not the $18,000, but something, it would go a lot further and carry a kid a lot further in life in terms of what the education that he would be getting than what he's getting for the $18,000 per kid now, than the bang for the buck type of thing.
Absolutely.
What makes you so sure about that?
Well, just look at results. We don't have to go far. Look at charter schools versus public schools. Charter schools, also the free schools, but they're run in a different way. They're not completely, but more or less free of this union involvement with this bureaucracy, and they take kids from the same neighborhoods. Same kids get much better results. I think the proof is in the pudding.
All right, well, it's going to take quite a lot of pudding, and especially if you're running on the Democratic ballot it's going to be quite challenging to think about how you're going to go up against the tide of a party that traditionally has not exactly been in sync with these things. I mean, how are you going to deal with that as an inside, having somebody an inside track in the Democratic Party? Or do you think you're going to? I mean, you have been endorsed by people in the Democratic Party, so obviously somebody likes what you're doing within the party.
Of course, I'm very proud to say that the local Councilman Michael Nelson, endorsed me. My former boss, Senator Seymour Lockwood, endorsed me. So I'm not running on the fringes. I think that as any party, we cannot say that all Democrats bad, all Republicans good, or vice versa. It doesn't work like this. In reality, I am not running for the President of the United States as a Democrat. I'm running for State Assembly. And in the State Assembly today, in New York State Assembly, there is 2-to-1 ratio of Democrats versus Republicans. Being a Republican in the State Assembly today will provide you with zero power. You will be able to produce zero results for your district or for the issues you hold near and dear to your heart. Being a Democrat in the State Assembly is a very different ballgame. But at the same time, not having the support of the official party organization, my hands are free. I'm not beholden to the party, and it's known. I stated my views on numerous occasions to numerous elected officials and party officials, and this is just the way I am.
Well, that should certainly leave you way ahead of the pack, but that's going to remain to be seen. I wanted to ask you another question, since you mentioned the things that are going on within the district that are so relevant and germane to you personally. And one of those things would be crime. You know, this area, according to what you and I were discussing prior to the show, the ComStat, which is a group which puts together, compiles statistics.
It's official statistics from One Police Plaza.
Right, and from One Police Plaza, according to that, my understanding is that crime in general in this area has gone up 50%. Not something that people are generally aware of, unless you ask people who we should know from it have been victimized by it. But do you see that as something that you would be able to address in a meaningful, significant, and way that might make a difference in turning that statistic on the downward trend?
Absolutely. I think it's a...
What are you going to do that somebody else hasn't done already?
It's a responsibility of any elected official, no matter the fact that what I'm running for is a state office, and police is it's a city agency. But to advocate for more police presence on the streets in our neighborhood, it's something that is a must, in my opinion. Security of the people, of our residents, is first and foremost responsibility of any elected official, of any decent human being, in my opinion. There is also something I wanted to point out, that this increase, this spark in crime here, and again, there is no proof. What I'm saying is...
But we just saw, I don't know if you caught this, but there was on the news just this morning, there was a break-in in Brooklyn, not far from this area, and somebody broke in and stole a $10,000 menorah. And they got it on videotape. That's type of thing which you would think would be unheard of, that somebody would do it in that type of broad daylight situation.
This is only one example.
Yeah, and it's only one example.
But I wanted to point out that just a little bit over a year ago, New York State repealed Rockefeller drug laws. Basically, what happened for many years, that because of this law, anybody who was found with any amount of drugs in their pockets would be put in jail for a very long period of time.
You're not talking about stop and frisk?
No, I'm not talking about stop and frisk, not at all. Stop and frisk is something that came later on. Rockefeller drug law deals directly with drug possession. It was repealed because, we today on the liberal band, and we want to say that our, how wonderful we all are and how we can all work together, which is great. The problem that I see that today, after the repeal, instead of when people were getting a very significant period of time in jail, 15, 17 years in jail, was not unheard of for first-time offenders, which is probably harsh, I would say. nevertheless, to give them 15, 17 hours of
Community
service is another extreme, which does not help the society. Again, there is no proof, and probably will not happen for many, many years till some studies will be conducted. But this spark happened to be right after the repeal of Rockefeller drug law.
You're saying there's a correlation between the repeal of the drug law and an increase in crime rate. So obviously you don't have to be too great in math to figure that out. They say there are 3 types of people in the world: those that are good in math and those that aren't. Like you don't have to be able to be a rocket scientist to figure out that if they repealed the law and then crime went up, particularly if it went up with drug-related crimes, something must have happened there. So what would you do about that? Can you unrepeal the law? Or would you advocate getting something kicked back in to do that?
Yes. Absolutely. I probably would not advocate for the same measures that were given to us under Rockefeller.
It could be a middle road.
Absolutely.
Right.
I do not like extremes. We cannot run from one extreme to another. We usually make mistakes. There is always a middle road.
Well, it doesn't sound like you're traveling on an extreme road, and it doesn't sound like you're traveling on a middle road either. It sounds like you have very, very strong views. Is there anything else that you'd like people to know about you, Ben Akselrod, personally, that they should know when they're going to the ballot box on September 13th to vote for their assemblyman? There is an incumbent already. Why would they want to replace him with somebody who's coming out of left field or right field or center field? But wherever you're coming out of, you're coming in as a newcomer, and despite the fact that you've got great passion and views that a lot of people are going to be in line with, what do you want them to know about Ben Akselrod?
As you mentioned, I wanted to say a few words about myself. Very, very simple. So people would know who Ben Akselrod is and why he's doing it. I did not come to politics just yesterday. I have my bachelor's degree in political science from Tura College, and I have my master's in urban policy and administration from Brooklyn College. I worked for State Senate. I worked for City Council. I was a district manager at the community board, local community board. I was an executive director at a nonprofit agency. I live and breathe this is my passion. This is what I love to do. This is what I know how to do. And now, growing up a little bit and having a great family with, it's very important to me how they will grow up. I think it's important to many of the people who are listening to us and watching us today. And I think that I can represent this area better. And I can represent this area with dignity and respect to all communities.
Well, we're going to find out. September 13th, you're going to make that decision. Ben Akselrod running for state assembly on the Democratic ticket in the primary that's coming up on September 13th. And your vote will determine who's going to take that seat. But, of course, that is up to you. For Front and Center Talk, this episode of From Right to Left, I'm BSD Eichler. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben.